In the Middle Ages, magic became a rebellious act perpetrated almost as an anti-Christian or an anti-authoritarian type of behavior.
The church singled out occultists, condemning them because they believed that an individual could have direct access to God.
They took the whole concept of church hierarchy, priests, the church itself, as a place of worship and said, no, you don't need any of this stuff. What you need is to work on discovering within yourself that divine spark.
But in the 14th century, the occult would rise again. Ironically, the church's holy war, the Crusades, was in part responsible. Monasteries to the east on the border of the Muslim world had preserved many of the ancient Greek and occult texts, studying them as curiosities. Returning crusaders brought a number of these documents back to Europe with them.
This learning started to trickle back, and little things were found in monasteries, a bit of scripture here, a bit of text there. And so the rumors were around that there had been greater learning in the past.
This rediscovery fueled an extraordinary rebirth of culture.
Well, this was the point. People began to realize, oh, there was wisdom amongst the ancients.
You have a new reverence for Egyptian and Greek and Roman and Hebraic tradition, because people are looking for really empowering knowledge and looking to understand the secrets of the ancients.
Art and science swept through Western Europe in the 1400s as it ushered in the Renaissance. Leading the movement into new ways of looking at old knowledge was the German physician Paracelsus. Born in Germany in 1493, Paracelsus trained in traditional medicine but also studied alchemy. Ultimately, forced out of school for challenging the status quo, he embarked on a nomadic life supporting himself with astrology readings. In his far-flung travels, he sought knowledge from any source he could find.
As for his education, he himself boasts that he lived in most universities of Europe, surely rather as a traveler than a student, and a vagabond than a traveler. Yea, some will not allow him so much, and one who hath exactly measured the length of his life, though crowding his pretended travels very close, finds not room enough for them. But 'tis too ridiculous what a scholar of his relates, that he lived 10 years in Arabia to get learning, and conversed in Greece with the Athenian philosophers. Whereas in that age Arabia the happy was accursed with barbarism, and Athens grown a stranger to herself, both which places being then subjected to the Turks, the very ruins of all learning were ruined there. As for his religion, it would as well pose himself as others to tell what it was. He was never seen to pray, and seldom came to church. He was not only skilled in natural magic, the utmost bounds whereof border on the suburbs of hell, but is charged to converse constantly with familiars. Guilty he was of all vices but wantonness, and I find an honest man his compurgator, that he was not given to women. Perchance he drank himself into wantonness and passed it, quenching the fire of his lust by piling fuel too hard and fast upon it. Boasting that he could make a man immortal, he himself died at 47 years in the city of Salzburg. His scholars say he was poisoned through the envy, that dark shadow of ever waiting on the shining merit, and malice of his adversaries. In a word, he boasted of more than he could do, did more cures seemingly than really, more cures really than lawfully, of more parts than learning, of more fame than parts, a better physician than a man, a better chirurgeon than a physician. End of The Life of Paracelsus by Thomas Fuller.
Paracelsus went around Europe and talked to barbers, talked to witches, talked to midwives, talked to, the village healer, and gathered together from everywhere what worked. And this was his huge final stance, is I use what works.
He rejected outworn theories, ventured beyond accepted boundaries. His pioneering experiments with minerals and chemicals laid the foundation for modern medicine. It was just the beginning of a scientific revolution.
For the introduction, Paracelsus' full name is Philippus Aurelis Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim. He was born on November 10, 1493. Paracelsus is also a Swiss physician, alchemist, lay theologian, and philosopher of the German Renaissance. He was also credited as the father of toxicology. For the intellectual revolution, Paracelsus is credited with making substantial advancements to medicine through the use of chemistry, hermeticism, and toxicology, all of which had a global impact.
Celsus was the first to use chemistry in medicine and was the first to acknowledge that physicians need solid academic knowledge in natural sciences such as chemistry, and was the first to pioneer the use of chemicals and minerals in medicine, and adopted the idea of tripartite alternatives to explain the nature of medicine, composed of combustible elements such as sulfur, mercury, and salt. And he believed that mercury, sulfur, and salt provided a good explanation for the nature of medicine because each of these properties existed in many physical forms.
His arithmetic belief were that sickness and health in the body relied upon the harmony of humans and nature. He took a different approach from those before him, using this analogy not in the manner of soul purification but in the manner that humans must have certain balances of mineral in their bodies, and that certain illnesses of the body had chemical remedies that could cure them. As a result of this hermetical idea of harmony, the universe macrocosm was represented in every person as a microcosm. An example of this correspondence is the doctrine of signatures used to identify curative powers of plants. If a plant looked like a part of the body, then this signified its ability to cure this given anatomy. Paracelsus believed that true anatomy could only be understood once the nourishment from each part of the body was discovered. He believed that one must therefore know the influence of the stars on these particular body parts.
Moving on to toxicology, Paracelsus expounded the concept of dose response in his third defense, where he stated that solely the dose determines that a thing is not a poison. His belief that diseases located in a specific organ was extended to inclusion of target organ toxicity. That is, there is a specific site in the body where a chemical will exert its greatest effect. Paracelsus also encouraged using experimental animals to study both beneficial and toxic chemical effects. He held the belief that organs in the body operated on the basis of separating pure substances from impure ones. Humans must eat to survive, there is no denying that. And they eat both pure and impure things. It is the function of the organs to separate the impure from the pure. The pure substances will be absorbed by the body, while the impure will exit the body as excrement. And today I will be discussing the importance of toxicology in our modern society. Toxicology plays an important role in pharmacy. We all know that pharmacy deals with medicine, and with medicine, we all know for a fact that it deals with a lot of toxic substances. And these toxic substances can be harmful to the body. And thanks to toxicology, it paved the way for human understanding about how this toxin works, how different toxins works really. And with that, we are able to produce medicines that is composed of some toxins, but instead of harming the body, we are able to turn it into a beneficial thing for our body, and instead of damaging our bodies, it helps us heal. That is the importance of toxicology in our modern society.